For every law-abiding trainer, there's always a rule-breaking thief. And these guys weren't catching glory, they were catching the odd Rattata and working the game's corner. But today, we salute them. My name is Macho Brace, and today we're turning the spotlight on one of the most notorious trainer classes ever to rob a poker center, the Rocket Grunt. You know the type: black cap, matching slacks, moral compass permanently set to profit. And yet, there's something so comforting about them. They definitely play favorites. If it bites, spits poison, and can be characterized as pollution, it's going in the team. In Pokemon FireRed, there are exactly 36 Rocket Grunts, spread all the way from Mount Moon to the Sevi Islands. And after combing through every single trainer's team, we've found out we have exactly 11 species available to catch. Except we don't have access to Houndour or Sandshrew in FireRed, so we're actually left with a measly 9. We're going to be following hardcore Nuzlocke rules, level caps, permadeath, and no in-game items. And if they win, all Pokemon are going to the Luxury Ball Resort for a life of petty crimes against the gift shop. So let's meet our character then, shall we? My name is Cash Ketchum. Rocket rookie in the making, dreaming of a cozy office in the HQ. The problem? Geo Jr., our rival, and the so-called heir to Giovanni. Only one of us is getting to the peak of the crime world, and unfortunately, he's got it in his blood. Cue the black outfits, cue the rocket music. Let's do this. Like every good grunt, I started with a standard issue lab heist. I picked Squirtle, strong, reliable, and not at all suspicious. But here's the thing, that's not really Team Rocket's style. We don't do well with balanced. We do our best with dwellers and rodents. So Squirtle got boxed faster than a witness in the back of a van. Instead, I hit Route 1 and picked up the true Rocket classic, Rattata. I named her Lemon after a comment on a recent video, and if you want your name to feature in the next video, comment your favourite Evil Team Pokemon down below, and you may get your hero in the next squad. We trained Lemon up the old-fashioned way, tackles, tail whips, and exactly zero remorse, until we were staring down Brock, the first gym leader between me and Giovanni's endorsement. We got just enough XP to push Lemon right to the edge of the level cap, and he got paralysed by a Pikachu to get us a Guts attack boost. Then it was time, and we stepped into the ring. For the 13th time. Yeah, this one's been rough. Brock led with Geodude, and we opened up with our razor-sharp rodent. Geodude defense curled and tackled as we started biting down on the brick with Hyper Fang. Eventually, we do land a final quick attack, and the Geodude cracked. Then came Onix, the one who's been particularly problematic for the last 13 runs. It tried Bind, but missed, and unfortunately, we were fully paralysed and couldn't move. On the next turn, Onix missed and we responded with a Tail Whip, dropping its defense. Then a tackle came and some more tail wagging on the next turn. Onix, increasingly confused by our rat's flailing extremity, missed a second bind. Then Lemon unleashed a Hyper Fang on the weakened rock so massive it nearly cut it in half. Onix then landed a weak bind, but Lemon wasn't having it. One final Hyper Fang cut through the Pillar Snake, and Brock's Onix was done. Lemon had finally secured the Boulder Badge. One Pokemon, no items, and no mercy. It was a brutal fight with all the runs considered, but Lemon clutched it up. As a recreational break, we stole the running shoes off of Oak's aide and sprinted away from the consequences of the action. Then we made our way towards Mount Moon, the region's #1 destination for annoying winged creatures. And inside, we picked up the cave's most iconic resident, a Zubat, who we named Breeze, because even when he's not doing damage, he's definitely flapping about like he is. Then we made it to Route 4 and we added another sneaky recruit, Gelato the Ekans. Cold-blooded, a bit slippery, a perfect fit for our Team Rocket bandits. As we trained up, Lemon evolved into Raticate, making me feel like a proper big-time grunt. And after that came Nugget Bridge, a gauntlet of trainers that ends with a pleasant surprise, a fellow Rocket Grunt. I didn't recognise him at first. He had a normal hat and suspicious posture, but as soon as he hit me with the Join Team Rocket line, I nearly cried. Jerry, right? No, okay. Steve? Steve. There are so many Steves in Team Rocket. Of course, we battled. You can't just let someone join a gang without a proper initiation fight. He seemed really excited, but he gave us the all-important instruction. Subscribe to Macho Brace or I'll steal your resort wristbands. Well, I think we should listen to what he has to say, maybe we should do that. With the Rocket welcome wagon behind us, we expanded the squad again, this time catching an Oddish who we called Evergreen. Steady, reliable, and absolutely not above using sleep powder spams. Before facing Misty, we evolved Evergreen into Gloom, bringing that corrupted glow-up that every rocket grunt aims for. If Gloom could talk, it would probably still choose to stay silent. With the team shaping up, Lemon, Breeze, Gelato and Evergreen, we were finally ready to take on Cerulean's Water Queen and her star-powered squad. We stepped into the gym with one mission: drown the competition in status moves and questionable tactics. Evergreen the Gloom took the lead, drooling and radiating the exact energy of someone who isn't bothered about spitting when they talk. Misty opened with Staryu, who immediately used Harden. We went for a sleep powder, but it missed. Staryu then fired off a water pulse and we got hit with a confusion straight out of the gate. But we landed a sleep powder and Staryu dozed off. Evergreen, confused but still functional, smacked itself in the face like a true champ. Next turn, we snapped out of it and fired off an absorb for massive damage as the star continued to snooze. One more absorb cleaned up the Staryu as Evergreen returned to full health. Then came Starmie, the real star of the show. It opened with Swift and we whiffed Sleep Powder again. Another Swift, followed by a now successful Sleep Powder, and it was lights out. At this point we began the slow drain. Asleep, absorb, asleep, absorb, asleep. One more absorb, and Starmie was clinging for its life. Misty panicked and healed Starmie back to near full, and we hit another absorb, and then another. And eventually it woke up and landed a Swift, but it was little too late. One final absorb took down Misty's ace, and the Cascade badge was ours. Evergreen didn't just win that fight, it set the alarm and it wouldn't go off until everyone was shattered to star pieces. After this, we made our way north to check out a rumour about a strange Pokémon hiding out near the Cerulean Cape. It turns out, it wasn't a Pokémon at all, but it was Bill, the local tech guy who had somehow merged himself with a Clefairy. So naturally, I do what anyone would, and I prepared to steal him. Yeah, get in the machine. The ransom money's gonna be crazy on this one. Unfortunately though, whilst mashing buttons, I accidentally reversed the process and turned him back into a man. Whoops. He was grateful, I think. It was hard to tell, he was still glitching a bit. As a thank you, he handed me the SS Anne ticket, a luxurious cruise full of rich trainers, rare Pokemon, and security systems ripe for exploitation. This could be a silver lining. With that in hand, we headed down to Vermilion City, home of the third gym, but we went driving on through to Route 11. Whilst pickpocketing locals, we stumbled across a new team member. Taco the Drowsy, a perfectly creepy companion for the sinister squad. Ticket in hand, we boarded the SS Anne, already marking out the rooms with rich passengers in them. But first, Geo Jr., the boss's son, my rival. He still talks like he's so smug. It must mean that he's doing well. We clashed on the upper deck, but we walked away the victor. And not just with XP this time, because after the fight, Breeze evolved into Golbat, finally big enough to get stuck in doorways and intimidate children at the local parks. Working our way up the decks, we found the captain, horribly seasick and hunched over a trash can. Naturally, I offered to help with some false charisma. I rubbed the poor man's back, said soothing things, waited till he was distracted, and then I slipped the cut HM from his back pocket. The ship pulled away moments later. Did he ever realise? Probably not. Do I care? Definitely not. Crime is a craft. Back on land, we taught Lemon the Raticate dig. Nothing says Rocket Pokemon of the Month like burrowing tunnels into housing estates to steal nuggets. Council's not gonna like that one. With Cut in hand and a rat with ground moves, Lieutenant Surge was officially the next target. Surge opened with Voltorb, and I led with Evergreen the Glue. The former went straight for a shockwave as we landed a Sleep Powder first time, tucking the orb in for a mid-battle nap. Then came a bit of chipping, and after a while of lightly smacking a Pokeball, we do eventually take the KO with an Absorb. Next came Pikachu, and this is where the chaos began. Pikachu opened with Double Team, and I immediately responded with Sleep Powder, which thankfully connected. Surge then used his full heal, and the status whack-a-mole began. We miss not one, not two, but Sleep Powder 3 times as Pikachu gets progressively harder to pin down. Finally, we do land Sleep Powder, and the Pikachu slumbers. We landed an Absorb, missed another, and then finally finished off the double-teaming rat with one last hit. Then came the final threat, Surge's Raichu. It continued the runaround by setting up Double Team, but we hit Sleep Powder right away and then tagged in Lemon the Raticate. Our rat dug underground while Raichu snored before Lemon landed a huge hit when it surfaced. Despite the damage, Raichu stayed asleep again, and one quick attack later, the electric ace was fried. Thunder badge acquired, that's 3 badges in, 1 lieutenant humiliated, and several hyperactive rodents neutralized. Giovanni has got to be watching by now. Then we set our sights east, marching towards the shadowy moor of Rock Tunnel, Kanto's premier blackout simulator, and home to roughly 6 million hikers with onyxes. We entered with a goal: find someone who hits hard and asks no questions. And that's when we met Stronk the Machop, a slab of muscle and raw ambition tucked away in the abyss. They have no frills, no fear, and just fists. Our hostage intimidator had arrived. We fought our way through the pitch-black gauntlet, finally emerging in the sunlight that illuminated Lavender Town, the spookiest town around. Inside Pokémon Tower, we bumped into Geo Jr. again, smugly looking among the gravestones like he'd won the I Lived Longer competition. We fought, and we won again, and he mumbled something about next time and ran off. God, that is such a good Giovanni line. We cut through the hedge maze and arrived in Celadon, the home of fashion, floral scents, and Erica, the most tranquil gym leader to ever attempt murder by plant. Erica opened with Victory Bell, and we led with Breeze the Golbat, who landed a wing attack before Erica's houseplant missed a stun spore on turn 1. She immediately healed in a panic before we landed our second heavy wing attack, and after a third, Victory Bell went down. Tangela was up next. We slapped our wings as it used Giga Drain, but it couldn't recover fast enough to avoid being shredded by another wing attack. Finally came Vileplume, spores flying and perfume spraying. We hit another wing attack in our flapping spam as it managed to land a stun spore, followed by a light spray of acid. But Breeze comfortably powered through the paralysis and landed a concluding attack to clutch up the final knockout. Rainbow badge acquired. That's 4 down. Team Rocket's favourite bat just raided a garden party, and somewhere back at a hidden headquarters, I can only hope that Giovanni raised one eyebrow in vague approval. Back in Celadon, we spotted a familiar face loitering by the Game Corner poster. We battled, of course, to intimidate all the locals, and then it was my turn to stare at the Rocket poster. Wait, a button? After prodding the little switch located directly on Giovanni's nose, the Rocket hideout opened up, complete with trapdoors, shady business deals, and spinning tiles designed to make everyone later for work. Just before diving in, something special happened. Gelato evolved into Arbok, who is now taller, meaner, and rocking that hypnotic hood. See, evolutions in Team Rocket isn't about strength, it's about how unsettling you can make a sprite look. Our team morale at this point was through the roof, but it didn't last long. Deep in the hideout, I let my guard down, autopiloting through battles like I'd already won them, and that's when it happened. We took on an unsuspecting coughing, and Breeze the Golbat, my fantastic flapper, took a self-destruct right to the face. And when the smoke cleared, they were gone. Yeah, sorry team. That was on me. That was completely avoidable, and I can only apologise for that one. We placed him in the dead box and paid our respects, before we kept moving, because my hero was waiting. Yes, Giovanni, the big dog, the boss man, my career goal with an iron suit. He took one look at me, and he already looked disappointed. Do I just give off that vibe? Am I too eager? Not enough unpaid overtime? Either way, he challenged me, and I decided it was time to prove my worth. Evergreen the Gloom swept through Onyx and Rhyhorn, smothering them in Absorb Spam and Sleep Powder Nightmares. But then came Kangaskhan, and things got hairy. Gelato stepped in, coiled up and barely clung on, but eventually the kangaroo dropped. No casualties, but a very close call. He didn't say anything about promotion afterwards, but he did hand me the Silph scope. Was it trust? Pity? A tax write-off? I don't know, but it definitely felt like a win. Armed with this new ghost spotting tech, I returned to Lavender Town, not to grieve, but to stir things up a little bit more. And eventually, we freed Mr. Fuji, who seemed deeply confused about being rescued by a grunt. Mr. Fuji looked at me like I was a ghost, and I mean, that is fair. I did climb a haunted tower just to steal an old flute off of him. Back at his house, he prepared us a coffee as we slipped the Pokeflute into our bag, in which I immediately borrowed forever. Before skulking out of Lavender Town, we slipped into the tower and we caught a Cubo named Party! Brilliantly, he came holding a thick club, because of course he did. Party loves the club. Whether that's a weapon or a 2 AM dance floor is yet to be seen, but we will find out the answer. We passed Snorlax, and eventually we rolled into Fuchsia City, where we headed straight into the Safari Zone. Not for fun, but for theft. We retrieved the Warden's teeth, briefly tried to fit the golden grills into my own mouth, but they didn't fit. before we stole the HM for Surf right off that nerd's desk. Eventually, after failing to get a dentist appointment, we delivered the teeth to the warden, and while he was busy slipping them back in, I snatched the strength from his table. Party evolved into Marowak soon after, and we had a fully grown, club-swinging, floor-filling monster on the team. And Taco the Drowsy? Well, he evolved into Hypno, equipped with the 1,000-yard stare and the moral of Kanto's Most Wanted. With this team reshaped, revived, and a little bit more dangerous than before, we set our sights on Koga, Fuchsia's Poison Master and Smoke Machine Enthusiast. We led with Party the Marowak, newly evolved, club in hand, and ready to crash whatever ninja masquerade Koga had planned. First up was Coughing. We opened with Strength, landing a heavy hit as he spat out a Toxic. Party shrugged that smog off though and slammed another Strength for the KO. Next came Muck, and I wasn't about to let the sludge get smug. We go for a signature Bone Meringue and knock out the beast with one hit. The Blorb had been blorbed, I guess. Another Coughing entered. Party opened with Strength, but it dropped a smoke screen, and suddenly we were swinging at the air. After Koga healed up, we did manage to land another hit, and at this point I decided to tag in our secret weapon to avoid losing Party to a dodgy pill. Taco stepped in, narrowed his eyes, and dropped a Psychic so hard it probably freaked out the next town over. Last came Wheezing, Koga's ace, and again, Psychic was enough to get the one-shot. Soul Badge claimed. Koga never stood a chance. His smoke screen didn't even cloud our vision, it just delayed his defeat. And with 5 badges and a team full of crooks, we were closing in on rocket greatness. We arrived in Saffron City next, the financial heart of Kanto and the home to Silph, the crown jewel of corporate greed. Look, say what you want about Team Rocket, but this was our moment. Our hostile takeover, our press conference of doom. I stood outside the building just marveling. 11 floors of sleek glass, shady contracts, and soon to be a variety of Pokémon rights violations in every room. It was cunningly beautiful. Until I found out Geo Jr. got here first. Seriously? How is he always one conference room ahead of me? Of course he wanted a fight, and couldn't just bond over some shared ambition like me and all the other grunts. And midway through the battle, things got really tight. His Gyarados landed a massive hit, and Taco very nearly went down. I genuinely thought we were going to lose him, but Hypno clutched it, and we walked away the winner again. At the top of the tower, I finally reunited with Giovanni, who, surprisingly, looked kind of cheery. Maybe I'd finally earned a bit of his respect. Maybe this was the turning point. Nope. Turns out he was just being sarcastic. You can call it what you want, but that is elite Rocket mentorship. Still, we battled again, and Party the Marowak cleaned house. And after the fight, I could have sworn Giovanni smirked, even for a second. Cash Ketchum has progress. With Silph secured, and maybe 15 Rocket operatives quietly escorted out of the back, we turned our attention to our next challenge, Sabrina, the Psychic Queen of Saffron, and the reason I line my hat with tinfoil. We trained up the team and Strunk evolved into Macho, now properly hench and arguably a bit overly exposing. The team was locked, the path was clear, and now let's see how psychic she really is. Wait, what? We walked in and absolutely bodied her with Bone Meringue, despite Kadabra setting up Reflect and Mr. Mime setting up Barrier. My word. What a creature Party is. What an animal we have in our ranks. This is some sort of unbridled ruthlessness that gets you into the newspaper for all the wrong reasons. What a legend! With the Marsh Badge acquired, I decided to run all the way to Fuchsia due to losing our flying type earlier, before realising we didn't have a Pokémon capable of Surf. This could really be an issue. So, straight from the PC, we recruited our rocket issue backup plan, Botata the Squirtle, our loyal non-combat surf specialist. Look, he's not able to fight like the rest of us, but every good operation needs someone to cross oceans and keep their damn mouth shut. We rode the waves down to Cinnabar Island, riding the Squirtle that some of you are definitely going to fangirl over. Naturally, when we arrived, we turned to the Pokémon Mansion, a crumbling science-gone-wrong nightmare full of journals, burglars, and unexplained coughing. And coincidentally, inside, we encountered a coughing, and I wasn't taking any chances with what happened to Breeze. It definitely looked primed to self-destruct, so I threw the Master Ball. It could have been a bit excessive, maybe, but it was worth my peace of mind, alright. We named him Big Smoke, because he's the rich gangster of our team. After this, we got the secret key, dodged every scientist still pretending it's normal to work in an active fire hazard before we caught Grimer and named it Soup. This was in honour of the random idea that in Kanto you could just mistake a sleepy Grimer for some hot purple soup. Gross. We went on the training game, and eventually Big Smoke evolved into Wheezing, Double Trouble, Twin Toxins, and the permanent look of, "Please let me leave this purgatory of living." With the team gassed up and the lab key in hand, it was time to challenge Blaine, the quizmaster of combustion and Kanto's premier arson enthusiast. Flamethrowers and questions, or embers and solutions? Let's find out. We led with Party the Marowak, club raised and ready to put out some flame. Growlithe, that took one bone meringue, and it was a knockout. Ponyta, that took one bone meringue, and that was a knockout. Rapidash was trickier. It landed a fire blast, but Party crits with the bone meringue right back. Arcanine came in next, intimidating us and dropping our attack, but fortunately it missed a fire blast, and sadly for the Arcanine, it got bone meringued into the ash. The Volcano badge was secured, no burns, no casualty, just clean, clinical, bone-based ember control. The only fire that Party messes with is whatever that DJ is dropping. We returned to the Viridian City, the last stop on the badge circuit, and fittingly, the gym leader was Giovanni himself. My leader, my rival, my idol. The man who's judged me in silence since Pewter and probably still thinks my name is Grunt43. It was time to prove I belonged. No more small jobs, no more stealing HMs. Just me, my squad, and the final test to be more than a grunt. We missed a bone meringue straight away before eating an instant earthquake. But next turn, bone meringue landed and we got the knockout. Dugtrio came in next, and it went for a slash as we missed another bone meringue. But then we took an earthquake before the club finally connected and we picked up a second knockout. Nidoqueen then hit the field, and I wasn't taking any chances. We swapped to Big Smoke to dodge the quake with Levitate before we tagged in Taco. She hit us with Poison Sting. Yes, Poison Sting. But Taco fired back with a critical Psychic for a very clean KO. Nidoking followed. It opted for a double kick, but a second Taco Psychic dropped it to the same fate as its queen. Then the final Rhyhorn entered. We hit a Psychic into the red before we took a scary face, and at this point Giovanni healed. He was panicking. We fired off another Psychic, causing him to heal once again. But third time's always the charm, and a perfectly timed Psychic crit imploded the beast. Giovanni's last Pokémon was down. The Earth badge was ours. Zero mercy. Giovanni said nothing, but his eyes in that moment said it all. He just turned, brushed off his suit, and exited the building with a bruised ego. I think he respects me now. Maybe, even just a little. Either way, the Rocket Grunt just took down the boss, but our job's not done yet. On the way to Victory Road, there was one last nuisance standing in our path. Gio Jr. I'd hoped that we were all done with this. Thought maybe he'd finally stop chasing his dad's approval now. But no. He wanted one last fight apparently, but I'm sure he's going to say that until he actually wins one. And in this fight, Taco went mad. It set up Calm Mind after Calm Mind, shrugging off hits and sweeping his whole team. There were no dramas this time, no losses, just a Psychic wall with a grudge. Hopefully that's the last we see of him. And with that taken care of, we entered Victory Road and swiftly made it to the Pokémon League. Here's where we lock in, pick a team, and EV grind up to their level cap. We level our Pokémon up to the highest level Pokémon of the last Elite Four member, which in this game is Lance's level 60 Dragonite. Those rules should put us on fairly level terms with the champion. So, here's the team we went with. Taco the Hypno, our Screener and Calm Mind Sweeper. Party the Marowak, the Bone Meringue Boogia, ready to go clubbing again. Evergreen the Vileplume, built to set up Sunny Day and fire off solar beams without any hesitation. Stronk the Machamp, our newly traded treat with access to Substitute and Focus Punch, a pre-poisoned guts-fueled threat. Lemon the Raticate, our utility queen, our Route 2 icon that's here to glue this team together. And finally, Big Smoke the Wheezing, a toxic spreading fiend who's able to lock out tough threats. We started this journey as a nobody, just another black-clad wannabe languishing in an empty town, but battle by battle, badge by badge, we clawed our way up. We weren't chosen, we weren't special, we just refused to stay down. This is about proving that even the lowest step on the rocket ladder can make their way to the top, one crime at a time. First up, Lorelei. We opened with Stronk the Machamp and she led with Dugong. It led with Safeguard as we stacked 2 bulk ups, then it tried a Surf but Brick Break crushed it in one clean shot. Slowbro came in next and we hit with a Brick Break, dropping it into the red before we took a surf in return. Sensing trouble, we swapped to Lemon, who set up a sunny day, but Slowbro just sat there, stacking amnesia like it was unlearning the alphabet. We then tagged in Evergreen, now armed with Solar Beam. The first one, a massive hit. Slowbro then yawned, but the second Solar Beam KO'd it, just as Evergreen fell asleep. Lapras then entered, and this was going to be a problem. So we brought in Big Smoke, who took an Ice Beam, then poisoned it with Toxic. Then the dooming dance began. Protects, Thunderbolts and healing rests were necessary to sleep the beast permanently, and eventually the chip damage took it down. Then Cloyster came out, and Big Smoke was still snoozing on the job. It went for a Protect, but we were already asleep and not moving anyway. After that, we continue the nap as it lays down a Spikes, but once Big Smoke woke up, one Thunderbolt was all it took to close the clam. And finally, Jinx. Yeah, this was a bit of a mess, honestly. It was a long back and forth of sleeping, lovely kisses and Lorelei healing, but eventually, casualtyless, we managed to drop the Smoocher and Lorelei's last Pokémon was down. Next up was Bruno, master of muscles and poor sportsmanship. We led with Party, and the first Onyx came out only for an instant before it was promptly dropped by Boomerang. The second Onyx, same Pokémon, same move, same result. Why does this guy even bother with those snakes? At this point came the onslaught of fighters. Hitmonchan stepped up first and got aerial aced into oblivion before it could throw a punch. Hitmonlee came in next and actually managed a Mega Kick, but Party shrugged it off and dropped it with yet another aerial ace. And finally, Machamp, the main threat and Bruno's ace. We know how good these four-armed fighters are. We hit it into the red with an early aerial ace before we took a scary face, and after a shift in speed, we had to tank a cross chop. But this time, Party didn't flinch. One more aerial ace was more than enough, and Machamp hit the mat. Bruno was defeated. 2 Onyx, no plan, one step closer to heaven, baby. One step closer to you. I think that was an S Club Juniors reference. My god. Agatha was up next, queen of ghosts, status moves and passive-aggressive hexing, but we came prepared for this one. She opened with her Gengar, and we opened with Taco the Hypno, who was calm, composed, and aiming to be immune to her elderly drama. Gengar went for Shadow Punch, but we landed a Hypnosis and set up a light screen as it slumbered. Unfortunately, it woke up and started spamming Double Team, so we took the opportunity to calmly stack 2 Calm Minds whilst praying for some good accuracy. She kept stacking Evasion, our first Psychic missed as it carried on duplicating itself around the battlefield. But then, with the eagle-eyed aim, Taco landed a boosted Psychic, and fortunately, Gengar went down. Golbat came in next, landed an Air Cutter, but luckily that didn't crit, and Taco could Psychic again for the KO. Arbok? Oh come on. It barely slithered onto the field before it was basically eviscerated. Another Psychic KO for Taco. The second Gengar outsped and tried a Hypnosis, but unluckily for it, it missed, and Psychic was more than enough to wipe out the Gengar twin from the map. Haunter? It's becoming a bit repetitive now, isn't it? But it was the same story. One Psychic, and it was gone. Agatha's ghostly ghouls were defeated. No curses, no losses, just a calm-minded Taco and some criminal mind games. Lance was up next, the Dragon Master and Cape Connoisseur. We should try and steal that man's clothes, honestly. They're just fire. We opened with Big Smoke, and he sent out his Gyarados. We got flinched by Bite first turn, and then we took a Dragon Rage, but we fired back with a 4x Thunderbolt to KO his first Serpent. Aerodactyl followed next, surprisingly, with a fast and reckless playstyle. It hit a wing attack and we landed a Toxic, and began the protective dance to reduce any possibility of Ancient Power boosts. We snuck in a Thunderbolt in there as it missed an Ancient Power before Toxic finally finished the job on the Fossil. Then came Dragonite, and things got very dicey. Outrage dropped Big Smoke to 11 HP, and we hit Rest to recover. Dragonite then lent a critical hit Outrage again, but it wasn't enough to wake up Big Smoke. At this point, I felt like a sacrifice might be needed, but then confusion kicks in and Dragonite hits itself. Twice. At this point, Smoke woke up, landed a Toxic, and then protected from an incoming Outrage. I think we risked more than enough there, so we tagged in Party, who ate an Outrage like a champ. It takes another dragon hit before firing off an attack that triggers Dragonite's Berry, but Big Smoke's lingering Toxic got the kill before it could ramp back up. Then came 2 Dragonairs back to back. The first one, Double Edge KO. The second one, Double Edge KO. And thanks to its Rockhead ability, Party took nothing. Lance was defeated. The gang of robbers had raided the league and only one final challenge remained. We have come a very long way. I'm expecting Giovanni. One last test from the boss himself. A final battle to prove I've earned the rocket status. But when the doors open, he is not standing there. It's Gio Jr. Again. I'm seething. After everything, he got here first. This isn't just about beating him anymore. This is about showing everyone that you don't need bloodlines, you don't need favoritism or a family connection to rise to the top. All you need is your tracksuit, your Route 1 rat, and the will to win. We used to be a grunt in the shadows, but now we're stealing the whole damn spotlight. Gio Jr. opens up with a Pidgeot, and we opened with Lemon, our day 1 member. No frills, but all fangs. We go for a return full of love, and it lands an aerial ace, but Lemon hit back with a second return for the KO on the bird. Then came Alakazam, who can get out of hand immediately if you get it wrong. Lemon fired off a powerful Shadow Ball though, and dropped the Alakazam all the way down to 0, gone before it could bend a spoon. Rhydon entered in next, and we tagged in Big Smoke, who dodged an Earthquake like a pro. Then we pivoted into Evergreen, who avoided a Scary Face before setting up Sunny Day, doubling her speed with Chlorophyll. Rhydon went for another Scary Face, but it just didn't matter. A Sunny Day Solar Beam charged and fired in one turn, and the Kaiju fell to the floor. Arcanine came in next, and we realised we had powered it up with our weather effect. We sent back out Big Smoke, who took a flamethrower and unfortunately got burned in the process. We stalled with a Protect, eking out the sun turns, and managed to dodge a couple of hits. And once the sun faded, we swapped into Party to turn the tides. Arcanine went for an Extreme Speed, but it didn't matter. Arcanine went for a Flamethrower, but it didn't matter. Our clubbing icon dropped its signature move, and a Boomerang ended the flaming mutt. What followed next was the ace, Venusaur. It started to charge a Solar Beam as we hit a Double Edge, dropping it to orange. Then we swapped to Taco, who tanked the incoming beam. Venusaur tried to set up Sun as Taco flashed up a light screen, and then the two of them boosted with Growths and Calm Minds. Venusaur got greedy and went for yet another Growth, but unfortunately we were already at perfect power. Taco fired off a Psychic, and the Bulb Dragon sank to the floor. Last up, Gyarados, the Pokemon that nearly ended Taco earlier in this run, the two of them facing off for one final showdown. Gyarados launched first with a vicious thrash, but Taco didn't flinch. Locking eyes with its opponent, Taco launched a crushing Psychic at the beast, who recoiled backwards. And as it fell, we see it's a critical hit. A final blow, and the serpent was no more. Gio Jr. was eliminated for the final time, and a true Rocket Grunt was crowned champion. No special Destiny story here, just Cash Ketchum strategy, stealing and street smarts. Long live the Rocket Grunt. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with this grunt all the way to the top. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment your favourite member down below. And if you really enjoyed this video, consider becoming a member. I have 2 members now, and to be honest with you, they're the greatest people I've ever met. They both picked out names for these videos, and I thought they sounded really great, so thanks a lot, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, embrace the chaos, and I'll see you at the Luxury Ball Resort.